Hey everybody, I'm Tammy Devine. I have some amazing videos to show you here at Baby Life Begins. These videos are probably content you've never seen before. Stay with me, you're not going to be disappointed. In fact, you might be blown away by what you're about to see. So I'm going to be showing you living babies in the womb. And these are pictures that go beyond what ultrasound will show you. And we'll show you some ultrasound pictures, 4D ultrasound as well. The pictures come from erf.science and their See Baby Grow video series, and they are a science-only resource. The big question that we want to make sure we find answers to is, who is baby? Who is the baby in the womb? Well, let me introduce you.
The dynamic process by which the single-cell human zygote becomes a 100 trillion cell adult is perhaps the most remarkable phenomenon in all of nature. The heart begins beating 3 weeks and 1 day following fertilization. The circulatory system is the first body system or group of related organs to achieve a functional state. Between 4 and 5 weeks, the brain continues its rapid growth and divides into 5 distinct sections. Brainwaves have been recorded as early as 6 weeks and 2 days. A touch to the mouth area causes the embryo to reflexively withdraw its head. Although movement begins in the 6-week embryo, a pregnant woman first senses fetal movement between 14 and 18 weeks. The embryo begins to make spontaneous and reflexive movements. Such movement is necessary to promote normal neuromuscular development. By 6 weeks, blood cell formation is underway in the liver, where lymphocytes are now present. This type of white blood cell is a key part of the developing immune system. The diaphragm, the primary muscle used in breathing, is largely formed by 6 weeks. Following implantation, cells on the periphery of the blastocyst give rise to part of a structure called the placenta, which serves as an interface between the maternal and embryonic circulatory systems. The placenta delivers maternal oxygen, nutrients, hormones, and medications to the developing human, removes all waste products, and prevents maternal blood from mixing with the blood of the embryo and fetus. The placenta also produces hormones and maintains embryonic and fetal body temperature slightly above that of the mother's. Nipples appear along the sides of the trunk. By 6.5 weeks, the elbows are distinct. The fingers are beginning to separate and hand movement can be seen. On average, the heart now beats 167 times per minute. A portion of the intestine now protrudes temporarily into the umbilical cord. This normal process, called physiologic herniation, makes room for other developing organs in the abdomen. Nipples appear along the sides of the trunk shortly before reaching their final location on the front of the chest. Hiccups have been observed by 7 weeks. Leg movements can now be seen, along with a startle response. Electrical activity of the heart, recorded at 7.5 weeks, reveals a wave pattern similar to the adults. In females, the ovaries are identifiable by 7 weeks. By 7.5 weeks, the pigmented retina of the eye is easily seen, and the eyelids are beginning a period of rapid growth. Fingers are separate, and toes are joined only at the bases. The hands can now come together, as can the feet. During the first 8 weeks following fertilization, The developing human is called an embryo, which means growing within. This time, called the embryonic period, is characterized by the formation of most major body systems. Growth continues at an extraordinary rate. By 8 weeks, 75% of embryos exhibit right-hand dominance. The remainder is equally divided between left-handed dominance and no preference. This is the earliest evidence of right or left-handed behavior. Pediatric textbooks describe the ability to roll over as appearing 10 to 20 weeks after birth. However, this impressive coordination is displayed much earlier in the low-gravity environment of the fluid-filled amniotic sac. The embryo is becoming more physically active during this time. Motions may be slow or rapid, single or repetitive, spontaneous or reflexive. Head rotation, neck extension, and hand-to-face contact occur more often. Touching the embryo elicits squinting, jaw movement, grasping motions, and toe pointing. Although there is no air in the uterus, the embryo displays intermittent breathing motions by 8 weeks. In male embryos, the developing testes begin to produce and release testosterone. Completion of 8 weeks until the end of pregnancy, the developing human is called a fetus, which means unborn offspring. During this time, called the fetal period, the body grows larger and its systems begin to function. The fetal period continues until birth. By 9 weeks, thumb sucking begins, and the fetus can swallow amniotic fluid. The fetus can also grasp an object, move the head forward and back, open and close the jaw, move the tongue, sigh and stretch. Nerve receptors in the face, the palms of the hands, and the soles of the feet can sense light touch. External genitalia begin to distinguish themselves as either male or female. The eyelids are now completely closed. A burst of growth between 9 and 10 weeks increases body weight by over 75%. Most fetuses suck the right thumb. Sections of intestine within the umbilical cord are returning to the abdominal cavity. Ossification is underway in most bones. Fingernails and toenails begin to develop. By 11 weeks, the nose and lips are completely formed. As with every other body part, their appearance will change at each stage of the human life cycle. Though sex is determined at fertilization, external genitalia can now be distinguished as male or female. Between 11 and 12 weeks, fetal weight increases nearly 60%. 12 weeks marks the end of the first third or trimester of pregnancy. By 12 weeks, upper limb length has nearly reached its final proportion to body size. The lower limbs take longer to attain their ultimate proportions. With the exception of the back and the top of the head, the body of the entire fetus now responds to light touch. In contrast to the withdrawal response seen earlier, stimulation near the mouth now evokes a turning toward the stimulus and an opening of the mouth. This response is called the rooting reflex, and it persists after birth, helping the newborn find his or her mother's nipple during breastfeeding. Sex-dependent developmental differences appear for the first time. For instance, female fetuses exhibit jaw movement more frequently than males. The face continues to mature as fat deposits begin to fill out the cheeks and tooth development begins. By 16 weeks, procedures involving the insertion of a needle into the abdomen of the fetus trigger a hormonal stress response, releasing noradrenaline or norepinephrine into the bloodstream. In the respiratory system, the bronchial tree is now nearly complete. A protective white substance, called vernix caseosa, now covers the fetus. Vernix protects the skin from the irritating effects of amniotic fluid. From 19 weeks, fetal movement, breathing activity, and heart rate begin to follow daily cycles called circadian rhythms. By 20 weeks, the cochlea, which is the organ of hearing, has reached adult size within the fully developed inner ear. From now on, the fetus will respond to a growing range of sounds. Hair begins to grow on the scalp. All skin layers and structures are present, including hair follicles and glands. By 21 to 22 weeks after fertilization, the lungs gain some ability to breathe air. This is considered the age of viability because survival outside the womb becomes possible for some fetuses. By 24 weeks, the eyelids reopen, and the fetus exhibits a blink-startle response. This reaction to sudden, loud noises typically develops earlier in the female fetus. Several investigators report exposure to loud noise may adversely affect fetal health. Immediate consequences include prolonged increased heart rate, excessive fetal swallowing, and abrupt behavioral changes. Possible long-term consequences include hearing loss. The fetal respiratory rate can rise as high as 44 inhalation-exhalation cycles per minute. Brain weight increases between 400 and 500%. During the third trimester of pregnancy, rapid brain growth consumes more than 50% of the energy used by the fetus. By 26 weeks, the eyes produce tears. The pupils respond to light as early as 27 weeks. This response regulates the amount of light reaching the retina throughout life. All components required for a functioning sense of smell are operational. Studies of premature babies reveal the ability to detect odours as early as 26 weeks after fertilization. Placing a sweet substance in the amniotic fluid increases the rate of fetal swallowing. In contrast, decreased fetal swallowing follows the introduction of a bitter substance. The fetus appears less wrinkled as additional fat deposits form beneath the skin. By 28 weeks, the fetus can distinguish between high and low-pitched sounds. During the last 4 months of pregnancy, the fetus displays periods of coordinated activity, punctuated by periods of rest. These behavioral states reflect the ever-increasing complexity of the central nervous system. By 30 weeks, breathing movements are more common and occur 30 to 40% of the time in an average fetus. Fetal exposure to various substances appears to affect flavour preferences after birth. For instance, fetuses whose mothers consumed anise, a substance which gives licorice its taste, showed a preference for anise after birth. Newborns without fetal exposure disliked anise. By approximately 32 weeks, true alveoli, or air pocket cells, begin developing in the lungs. At 35 weeks, the fetus has a firm hand grasp. The fetus initiates labour by releasing large amounts of a hormone called estrogen and thus begins the transition from fetus to newborn. Labour is marked by powerful contractions of the uterus, resulting in childbirth. From fertilization to birth and beyond, human development is dynamic, continuous, and complex. New discoveries about this fascinating process increasingly show the vital impact of fetal development on lifelong health. As our understanding of early human development advances, so too will our ability to enhance health, both before and after birth.